Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for attending this morning, and welcome to the TGB webinar. And I just want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to just sit down and contemplate the issues, the social media, sexting, and cyberbullying issues with us today. And our presenter today is Matt Tibbetts with TGB Solutions, and he is going to be giving us a presentation that is very timely, very poignant. It never ceases, a week never ceases to go by, at least on Texas ISD, where we don't, I say a week, probably more like a day go by that we don't see some issue in the state of Texas or nationally that is very, very closely related to what Matt's going to cover today. It's just an issue that keeps building, keeps having new intricacies, new nuances, and so what Matt's going to present today, I've heard his presentation quite a few times. I've participated in with it. We've had conversations over and over again, and there never ceases to be things to talk about. New technological innovations that lead to more issues for school district, for school personnel, for parents related to this issue. So I would just like for y'all to just sit back and really open your ears and listen to what Matt has to say. He is very much an expert on this issue. We are very pleased and proud to have for Texas ISD to have our relationship with TBG so that we can present this information to the school districts. And if y'all see that it's something that y'all could definitely use, I very much encourage getting in contact with Matt after this presentation and just pick his brain over some of these issues and see if really and truly it might be something that you could put a small amount of effort into to really solve a big problem that can really polarize an issue, can cause a problem in a school district for, and take away from your educational time with those kids and really do damage to a school district. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Matt Tibbetts, and go for it, Matt.
All right. Thank you, Josh. We have really enjoyed doing these webinars. We've been doing them since last summer, and they've just been fantastic to be able to reach out to schools all across Texas and be able to connect with new schools and get the information out. I just got back from a school down near Waco where I did 5 student assemblies for them yesterday over at Valley Mills. And they had actually attended the webinar over the summer. And then they contacted us to come out and do staff development and then student assemblies. And they were so pleased to just seeing the light come on in their kids' eyes and getting to see that they're connecting and making the connections between technology and using it responsibly and using it in such a way that's going to help them and not harm them in their college lives and their careers and even in day-to-day school. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, Texas ISD. We have loved partnering with these guys as well, and it's been a pleasure. So a little bit about ourselves as we get started here. TBG Solutions, we've been doing staff and student training for over 10 years now, and so it's been a pleasure. We've worked with over 200 school districts across Texas and over 1,000 other we have over 1,000 other clients across the nation, from businesses to hospitals to medical to insurance companies, and anybody in any field needs to be aware of social media and identity theft, data breaches. We just started doing active shooter response as well. We started that this last year, and that has been incredibly well received across the board. We have a number of schools bringing us in the spring and this past fall, and even businesses and nonprofits have been bringing us in to do those topics. And so our passion is to change thinking, change behavior, manage risk. We know that if we can create an engaging format, an engaging presentation that people walk away with their thinking changed, then their behavior is going to follow. As a result, their risk is going to be managed whenever it comes to those topics. And so that's our passion. That's what we love to do. We have a lot of fun doing what we do, and so all of our audience has a lot of fun with us. We have a good time, and it ends up being a little bit of, maybe using the term edutainment. It's entertaining and it's educational And so you walk away impacted, and it changes your life in just a little bit of way that can manage some risk. We do take a top-down approach. We love to do staff development, and a number of our staff development sessions we can do at little or no cost for school districts, which has been great because that fits in the budget well. And then from there, being able to work from the staff and then go to the students has just been really fundamental in creating a culture shift and an understanding in a school or in a business of what's going on. Here's the picture. Here's the awareness that we need to have when it comes to these issues. Also, I want to let you know that we have a excuse me, an ebook called Be Safe in Cyberspace that Mark Zagin has put together. It is available on his website for $14.99, but as a thank you for all of you who are attending our webinar today, we're actually going to send out a code at the conclusion of this webinar that will give you free access to the book, so you'll be able to download it for 100% free. We hope you take it and use it with your families. You know, some of the things that I say today, I usually like to speak for about an hour and a half, so I've only got about 45 minutes today to unpack some of these things, but there's a lot of information in this book, and so I hope that you take it with you and use it with you and your families. We've had superintendents and principals using it, and it's been really helpful. So without further ado, here's our overview for today. How to not get fired over your Facebook post. Always a helpful topic. I know that all of y'all are enjoying your job right now and would not want to lose it, especially because of a simple Facebook post. And we're going to talk a little bit about the privacy there, what Facebook really is, and kind of pull back the veil just for a second. We're going to talk about identity theft from your profile, and then also Senate Bill 407, which came out in September of 2011, what it requires from our Attorney General, Greg Abbott, and then as well as sexting and cyberbullying, a little bit about the stories and the statistics there, what we can learn from those and how we can better help our students to not go down that path. Also, real quick, if you have any questions, you're welcome to use the GoToWebinar questions function. I will try to get to some of those by the end of the session. Also, my email address is down in the bottom right, as well as our phone number. Like Josh mentioned, pick up the phone, give us a call. I'd love to visit and talk about what y'all are doing at your school, if there's anything we can do to help, and just even if you have a story to share. I've heard so many stories, and I use them in my assemblies, and I use them in my staff training, and so they're helpful to kind of bring those principles alive. And so give us a call. I'd love to visit. Also, all the notes from this entire presentation, this entire PowerPoint here, I'm going to email that to you as a PDF document at the conclusion of the training as well. You'll have a link to a landing page on our website where you can download it. So you won't have to actually take notes on every single thing that I put up on the screen. More so, I would encourage you, if you're taking notes, to take notes on the things that I say going forward. And so, without further ado, let's get started here. Teacher getting fired over Facebook photos. I don't know if you're aware that this happens, but it does. I know that many of y'all probably went on vacation over Christmas or maybe over the last summer, planning on an upcoming vacation this year. There's a teacher named Melissa who actually went on a vacation to Germany. Now, when I moved to East Texas, I must confess I'm not a native, but when I moved here, what I quickly discovered is that the culture is you drink sweet tea, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's wonderful. Now, if you go to Germany, what's the culture there? Warm beer, right? Warm beer, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So she was on vacation with a couple girlfriends. She was in Germany, and she posted this picture to her Facebook page with a glass of wine in one hand and a glass of beer in the other. When she got back to her school, she walked up to her desk, sat down, and there's a letter of resignation sitting on her desk. And she was forced to resign from her school because of that Facebook photo. Parents and administrators had seen it. They deemed that it could potentially be a negative influence on her kids and forced her to resign from her school. So she was essentially fired because of her Facebook post. Now, we could argue either side of the coin here. We could say, you know, she's on her personal time, she's off in another country, she's of legal drinking age, it's her personal Facebook page, etc. I mean, we could argue all of that side of the case, or we could argue the side that says she could be a negative influence on her kids. She's a public figure, and you know, a leader's lowest standard is a follower's highest standard, and so all of those kind of things. We could argue either side. The fact remains she was fired because of a Facebook post. There's another teacher who is an elementary teacher, and you can probably see this scene happening in your classroom. She gets out the duct tape because one of her kids broke their binder, and they're going to fix the binder. And one of the kids takes duct tape and puts it over his mouth and starts to laugh about it. He's in third grade. And so he thinks it's pretty funny. He passes the roll around the classroom, and they all put pieces of duct tape over their mouths. And before you know it, they're all laughing, having a good time with duct tape over their mouths. She takes a picture, puts it on Facebook with the caption, "Finally found a way to get them to be quiet." Now, if I was just telling you this story in the teacher's lounge or in the hallway, you'd probably think it was pretty funny. I might show you the picture and like, wow, that's pretty funny. I know you. I understand that you're a great teacher, that you have tenure, and that you love your kids. And you wouldn't do anything to harm them. And she did have tenure. She had been teaching for a number of years, was a great teacher, loved her kids. But when parents saw that picture, they were looking at it from a different perspective, right? And that's kind of one of the biggest things we have to realize about Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or any of those social media outlets. But when somebody views it from their perspective, what perspective might they view it from that might not be the perspective you're intending to share it from? And so anyways, parents saw the picture. They alerted the school board. They immediately put this teacher on a leave of absence, and she was later fired from her job in May 2013 because of that Facebook photo. One last story. There's a teacher who she often got sick because of her kids coming in and wiping their snot on her sleeve and all that good stuff. And she made the post, "Not looking forward to another year at my school. All my kids are germ bags and their parents are snobby and arrogant." I know that some of y'all are chuckling right now in your office. I know that none of y'all would have ever said that, but how many have ever thought that, right? The fact remains that it's probably not a good idea to share something like that on Facebook. And she did. Parents, administrators found out, and she was fired from her job because of Facebook. So it becomes this big deal about what we're sharing and what we're putting out, what we're consuming, and what other factors, who are all looking at the things that we're publishing online. Now, when it comes to the things that are on your profile, what are some of the things that you have on your Facebook? Do you have things like your birthday, your hometown, your home address, your phone number? What are the things that are on your Facebook page? Because there's a study came out of Carnegie Mellon University that students figured out that if they have just your birthday and the place of your birth, when and where you were born, that's how the first 5 digits of your social security number was built. And they could predict it with a 50% accuracy. So if I had the first 5 of your social, what do you give everyone else over the phone? The last 4. With your 9-digit social security number, now I can go down to Ace Cash Express, get a $500 advance. I can get a new cell phone in your name. I could get a car in your name, get land. I mean, identity theft from your profile becomes very real when you're sharing those kinds of pieces of information. So we always encourage everyone to take down your birthday, take down your hometown. Those are 2 critical pieces of information that you don't want available to the World Wide Web. Also, things that you post. Have you ever posted at the Texas A&M game, or at a Rangers game, or at a Baylor game, or at a Longhorn game? I'm trying to make sure I cover all my bases here, all the fan bases. But if you've ever posted something like that or said something to the effect of going to the store, headed out of town, going on vacation, where are you not when you make that post? You're not home. And if your home address is accessible, whether from whitepages.com or on your Facebook profile, then a thief could very easily end up at your house taking your stuff while you're not home because you're clearly checked in or taking photos or posting live of where you currently are. There's actually a family who went to Disney World, and they were excited about going to Disney World. They're taking photos. They're sharing statuses about Epcot and the Magic Kingdom and Snow White and the 7 Doors and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, when they got home, they discovered that thieves had gone through their house, cleared out everything of value: jewelry, laptops, computers, TV, lazy boys. I mean, just cleared out, because they had been letting everyone know the entire time where they were. Now, for those of you who have kids, I really encourage you to talk with your kids about posting things like house to myself, home alone. When they post things like that, they're opening them up to a world of stranger danger that could come knocking at the door. And so they need to be careful and think before they post, who could see this post? Could it possibly be dangerous? Because it goes out to a much wider audience than we like to think. So social media giving away your location. Have any of y'all ever uploaded a photo to Facebook straight from your smartphone? Most of us have, right? And when you upload a photo straight to your smartphone, chances are geotags are enabled. So what does that mean? Geotags is a GPS location attached to that photo, and with that GPS location, we can zoom in to within 3 feet of where the photo is taken. So if you put a Facebook, if you put a photo up on Facebook or Twitter or Craigslist or Photo Bucket, anytime you're uploading a photo, maybe it's of the couch that you're selling or of your niece or of your granddaughter, you're putting that photo up, and if it has that location attached, they can actually map out those locations. So for instance, this news story right over here on the right, I play the story whenever I'm in doing training and doing live sessions. The reporters were able to map out this little girl's bedroom, her nursery, her favorite fast food restaurant, down to the corner of the park that she played in because of the photos that her parents were sharing. So I encourage you, anybody that has a smartphone, whether it be an iPhone, Android, with iPhones, you go to your settings, privacy, location services, and then turn off access from any app that wants to learn your location that doesn't need to. For instance, the Facebook app doesn't need to know, Instagram, Twitter, camera does not need to know your location, and that'll be able to take off geotags for a number of those apps. Check with your kids as well, their iPads or iDevices, or if they have smartphones. Make sure the geotags are turned off, because that'll help keep them a lot safer when they're interacting with the World Wide Web. If you have an Android, you'll have to Google it, learn how to turn off geotags, because every Android skin is slightly different. The basic idea is that you go to camera and you go to options, and you'll be able to turn off tags, and you'll be able to turn off geotags to some extent. So we live in this world where we're constantly sharing and we're constantly giving out information. What we have to understand is that there's a small degree of privacy. There's a small degree of privacy, because in all reality, no matter how many privacy settings you have locked down, it's on a server somewhere. It's on a computer that passed through somewhere, right? Somebody could take a screenshot, somebody can replicate it. How many of you have ever been on an email chain that you weren't supposed to be on? You might have gotten CC'd accidentally, BCC'd, or forwarded an email chain that has some information that may have been confidential down the row. I know that none of y'all have done this, but I'm sure that many of y'all have received one of those emails, right? And that's how easy it is for any kind of digital photo to be replicated, to be reproduced, and to be sent on as far as it might need to go. And Google never forgets. Once a photo ends up on Google, it's there pretty much for the rest of your life. They have no reason to take it down because they have plenty of server space. So when it comes to private photos and when it comes to things being shared, whenever I'm talking with kids, I really bring it to them like, listen, you have to understand that when you take a photo of yourself that's inappropriate, or that is giving something else something about yourself away, you have to realize it's going to a much farther audience than you like to think about. Couple of statistics here. Kids get their first cell phone at the age of 10. That's kind of the average age that a kid will get their first cell phone. Some might be younger, some might be older, but that's kind of the average. 75% of young people have a cell phone. And when I poll the crowds at my assemblies, I often ask them how many have more than one phone. There's always 5, 10, 15 kids that have a second phone. Why do they have a second phone? Well, one, their parents gave them and they know about, and they might have restrictions on. One, they picked up at Walmart with a no contract plan, and they have unrestricted access to the internet, to apps. One they turn in for school, one they bring with them in their pockets at all time. I mean, there's a whole plethora of reasons that they decide that they're going to hold on to a second phone. So a number of kids also have second cell phones as well. I know that none of your kids do, but maybe some of their friends and the neighbor kids, you might want to check them out, see if they have a second phone. 29% of students claim to have been or currently are involved in sexting. So about 1 in 3. When it comes to sexting, the one of the biggest apps that is being used for sexting these days is an app called Snapchat. I'm not sure how many of y'all have heard of Snapchat before. Essentially, the idea behind Snapchat is that you take a photo in the app, it gets sent to the person, and it only lasts on the other person's screen for a designated amount of time, whether it be 10 seconds or less. It's 10 seconds or less. It might be 5, might be 7. But when it comes to Snapchat, when that photo gets sent, it was actually billed and has been marketed as the safe sexting app, because the photo, is only lasting for a couple seconds and then it disappears and it can't be gone and gotten back, right? we're all shaking our heads right now. Of course that photo can be replicated. If somebody screenshots it, if they take a photo of the screen with another camera or with another phone, not only that, but Snapchat is keeping a record of every single one of those photos in their server. And you should see the kids' eyes when I tell them this in the assemblies. They go, no, somebody else has a copy of all my snaps and all my chats and all my photos that I've been sending. Their eyes get really big. They start squirming a little bit in their seats and then I tell them, very possibly Snapchat's going to get bought out. It's part of their terms and services that somebody else can buy all of those photos, and your images could end up on Fox News one day or CNN. And that's an awkward dinner table conversation. And they really start to squirm then. They go, oh boy, I really hope that those photos don't get out, because that's the app that they're often using. So I encourage you, that's a big one to check with your kids at home, and just see what they're using it for. Some kids just use it innocently, but just like any innocent tool, it can be used maliciously. And Snapchat has been notorious and is even created and kind of marketed, not blatantly, but behind the scenes, as this safe sexting app. And so that's a big deal. Other statistics here, 44% of boys say that they've seen sexual images of girls at school. 44, so almost half will have seen a photo get passed around, forwarded in the locker rooms, wherever the case may be. 44% of boys say they've seen sexual images of girls at school, and 15% of boys will spread sexts when they break up with a girlfriend. And so once those photos are on a phone, on a device somewhere, they're synced. If you ever take a photo with an iPhone, where does it end up? 2 places: on your camera roll as well as your photo stream with iCloud, right? And so oftentimes kids go, oh yeah, I've got to delete it off 2 places. If you can delete a photo and there's copies of it somewhere, there's copies of it floating around, and it could very easily come back and create a lot of damage. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the story of Jessie Logan, but Jessie Logan was a pretty 18-year-old senior. She had a boyfriend, and they were sending nude photos back and forth. They were sexting. And when they broke up, because sometimes high school relationships don't go all the way, but when they broke up, he sent those photos out to 7 different schools. 7 schools had naked photos of Jessie Logan on their phone. And so you can imagine what happened next. She was getting taunted, bullied, harassed nonstop, offline and online, from people she didn't know, 4-letter words, name calling. Her phone was getting text messages from people she didn't know, voicemails. Her Facebook was getting friend requests and messages. I mean, she was just getting bullied and harassed and humiliated. So she ends up going on the news, and she tells girls, don't ever get involved with sexting. It ends up destroying your life. It follows you around. It's wrecked my family's life. Don't ever do it. Well, her story ends in tragedy because her mom ended up finding her hanging by a belt in her closet, and she committed suicide. And that story always breaks my heart, because it shouldn't have happened, and she shouldn't have had to send those photos, and she shouldn't have been manipulated into it, or whatever the case may be. And that guy shouldn't have sent them out to 7 schools. But kids have to realize that when they're playing with sexting, and when it seems like a fun and game, they have to realize that there are much larger consequences, and then it can get you burned. And there's a body count. Amanda Todd, who was 15 in Canada, she flashed a camera, it followed her around, and then she ended up taking her own life. And there's just story after story. And like Josh was mentioning, that story after story, you'll see them on Texas ISD or other news sources of kids who have gotten involved with sexting, and it ends up in just a world of hurt. Often transitions right from sexting into cyberbullying. And as one student brought up the other day, she said, well, what about, when a kid asks for a nude photo and then he gets bullied because he was actually asking for the nude photo? And I thought that was kind of an interesting flip side of the thing, that even starting to, push that way could end up in bullying as well. So it's just sticky issue, and it's an issue that kids need to be aware about. Now, when it comes to cyberbullying, 50% of young people have experienced cyberbullying, so about 1 in 2. So if you look at your class, if you think 1 in 2, about every other kid, they've experienced cyberbullying to some degree. 1 in 3 have had rumors spread about them online. And even 80% of adults have experienced some form of online meanness in the past 6 months. When it comes to cyberbullying is also a sticky issue. But what's interesting about it is it's very easy to track down. It's very easy to see who it was. And there There's a story that out of Granbury, Texas, where two 12 and 13-year-old girls, they were bullying a classmate. They made a fake Facebook profile about her and then proceeded to say all sorts of nasty things about her, and she'd get bullied. When she walked in, they'd connect with her friends and threaten them and say unkind things to her friends. Eventually, the chief of police over at Granbury, they tracked those two girls down, and they ended up in juvenile detention and facing felony charges. How many of y'all, boy, this is so hard for me not to be able to interact with the people I'm talking to, but how many of y'all have seen the Lifetime special Cyberbully? If you haven't, I encourage you to do so. It's a great insight into cyberbullying and all that goes on there. The kicker about bullying, it used to be that if you're bullied in the parking lot, you could go home, get built up by your parents, come back to school, and get away from the situation. Now with cyberbullying, kids are lying in bed at night with their phone on their pillow, buzzes every time they wake up, text back, put it back down. If they get a Facebook push notification, boom, they're checking, they're connected all the time. And so cyberbullying follows them around wherever they go. So the Lifetime Cyberbully special, what it was about was a girl who had a friend, and she ends up becoming friends with this boy online, and he tells her all sorts of sweet nothings, and tells her that he's going to date her and that she's pretty and all this good stuff, and then it turns nasty, and he starts threatening her and calling her names and calling her ugly and all this kind of thing, and she ends up trying to take her own life because of the bullying. Her parents were able to stop her and rush her to the hospital and save her life. The kicker of the whole story was that boy online was actually a fake Facebook profile that her best friend had made because she was jealous. And that's where cyberbullying can get really, really ugly, because people can pretend to be whoever they want online and just bully other kids. And oftentimes, even when it just comes to Twitter, when it comes to Instagram, girls and boys can be really mean on Twitter, and they'll go back and forth and yap at each other, and they'll say things they never say in public. They never say in person. Now, of course, we understand that social media is a public sphere, and your online life is directly connected to your real life. But kids, for some reason, have this judgment call that they're not making, that I can say whatever I want online and it's not going to affect me in real life. I can be mean, I can be rude, and it's not going to come back and get me. Now, when it comes to cyberbullying, here's the story from the two Granbury middle school students. Used to bully a classmate. They faced felony charges. One of the beautiful things about living in Texas is that, Texas laws don't mess around. Don't mess with Texas. So when you break the law, there are serious consequences. It is illegal. It can be a Class A misdemeanor all the way up to a third-degree felony. Can mean juvenile confinement and 2 to 10 years in prison. Will also most likely include a fine, community service. Of course, there's court dates with parents. There's courses that can be gone through. And when a student comes to you and they have evidence of cyberbullying, whether it's on campus or off campus, you can recommend them to talk with law enforcement, for their parents to talk with law enforcement, because it is illegal and it can get escalated to the police and they can take action. Just like in Hood County, the sheriff tracked him down. Cyberbullying is fairly easy to track down, whether it comes to IP addresses, the phone number, the email address. I mean, there's a whole bunch of information. We had to track someone down, especially when it's just students, and they're not complicated hackers or coders or anything like that. They're just trying to be mean to a classmate. So it's pretty easy to figure out who they are pretty quickly. Now, just like cyberbullying, sexting is also illegal because of this. A sexually explicit image of an individual under the age of 18, so 17 and under, is classified as child pornography. Children can be prosecuted for receipt, possession, forwarding, or production of child pornography, even if it's of themselves on their own device. It's classified as child pornography. And of course, every year, people go to jail, get misdemeanors, get felonies because of child pornography. And if you get a felony because of child pornography, then you're a registered sex offender for the rest of your life. Now, what was happening in Texas for a while there was that kids were sending images back and forth, and sometimes it was really needed to be taken action on. It was more than just sweethearts. It was bullying, it was harassment, and so a kid might be prosecuted, brought into court, and judges were very hesitant to hand down a conviction because it was such a weighty conviction. The only thing we had in Texas at the time was to charge him with a felony and register him as a sex offender. Now that seemed like too steep of a conviction, and so many judges wouldn't prosecute and wouldn't do anything, but they had no other teeth. They had nothing else to slap the wrist of the kid with. And so Senate Bill 407 came out in 2011. Compliance was necessary by 2012-2013 school year. Basically what it does is it brings down the juvenile conviction to begin with a Class C misdemeanor, up to a B or an A misdemeanor, a fine, a potential confinement, but it's up to the judgment of the judge to hand down one of those convictions. So now they do have a little bit of teeth. They can also give court-ordered courses to go through with parents, which of course is no fun for a student to have to go through. Awkward dinner table conversation. But it does give the ability, of course, to do something about it. What Senate Bill 407 also did was it required all schools in the state of Texas to make this information available to their students. You can choose what grade levels attend. Of course, we probably definitely want to have junior high and high school in that group, but down to 5th and 6th grade if you see necessary. But make it available to them, the awareness that sexting is dangerous. There are emotional consequences. There's social consequences. It could result in loss of after-school activities. It could result in jail time. It could result in felony convictions or a misdemeanor. And so they have to be aware of those consequences. And so Senate Bill 407 actually requires all schools to make that information available to your students however you'd like to. It can be via any kind of venue that you choose, whether it being doing a simple assembly with your principals or superintendent, or if you bring somebody else in like ourselves to do something a little bit more full and a little bit more perhaps engaging. We do that as well, and our training is compliant with Senate Bill 407. We've had our lawyers look through it and make sure that it meets the requirements. But just making that information aware to them so that they know that when they're making a decision to send a nude photo or to receive one or to produce one or to forward one, it could end up in a big deal with the law. Now, another side note here for educators. If a student ever comes to you with a nude image on a phone or a sex message, there's a couple key things you need to be aware of. First off, do not ask them to forward you a copy. You don't need a copy on your phone or in your emails. I know that sounds obvious, but I need to say that because it might seem like, oh, well, just send me it. We'll deal from it there. Don't do that because you don't want a copy attached to your name or in your servers or somewhere that you might not be able to control. What you should do is confiscate the device, walk it over to the office, immediately get other people involved because you don't want to be holding onto a device with child pornography on it. And there's an unwritten rule in the state of Texas that if you hold on to that image for more than 48 hours, you could potentially be charged with receipt and possession of child pornography. So you want to take action immediately. Bring it up to the administration office, talk it over with your principals and superintendents, and decide the best course of action to take, whether it be simply notifying the child's parents and getting them involved, whether it be bringing law enforcement in to take the next step. Also depends on whether the child is a repeat offender, if they're using it maliciously, or maybe they're just sweethearts and they just weren't thinking. From there on you can make a judgment call, but immediately involve other people, especially as a male teacher. Involve female teachers. Get it out and aware in your team, so that you don't end up throwing it in your desk, worrying about it, in a week, and then you could potentially be charged with possession of child pornography. So just a side note there that you'll want to be aware of as you're handling these issues. So at this point, you may be wondering, well, how can we best bring this kind of information to our staff and our students? This is where we say, well, we would love to partner with you on a top-down approach, do staff development, do student assemblies, whatever you'd like. And this is just a couple of things that we bring to the table. We bring effective and engaging communication. We use videos, we use examples, tell stories, make jokes, and have a good time, but also deliver information in a way that changes thinking, changes behavior, and manages risk. Let's see here. We also we provide a discussion guide for classrooms to use with your students, as well as we make the ebook that I mentioned earlier available to your entire district. You can use that code. We'll make a code specifically for your school. For instance, Whitesboro ISD or Valley Mills ISD, and we make that available for all of your staff and students and parents to be able to download a copy, take it with them, and read more about it. So if that's something that you think might be interesting for you, feel free to give us a call, shoot me an email, and we can talk about the details and how to get it out to you so that it can impact your staff and students. We did get a question asking, will we be able to get this recording? You can definitely email me about that. We are recording this session, and so we can talk about how to best get that to you. So certainly, looks like Kevin Moran, you're welcome to shoot me an email on that one. Also, just want to give you a quick insight into the training that we're doing, or the webinar rather, that we're doing on Friday. Active shooter on campus, what is your plan? This to me is just one of our most important trainings that we can possibly do because it saves lives. I don't know if y'all remember back in December, but we just had another school shooting in Arapahoe in Littleton, Colorado. When I saw that shooting was in Littleton, Colorado, my heart dropped because I have two siblings. One's a senior in high school and one's a freshman, and it was in high school in Littleton, Colorado. So I immediately jumped on, tried to figure out what campus, what's going on. Fortunately for me, the campus was my siblings' campus is 5 minutes down the road from the campus that the shooting happened at. But of course, when I got home over Christmas break, I sat down with them and I started drilling them. Okay, what would you do? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever gotten training about it? And my brother and my sister looked at me with wide eyes and said, we've done tornado drills, we've done fire drills, but we've never talked about what to do if an armed gunman walks on campus. And so that to me was just another Kodak moment. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what you do. This is how you barricade a door. This is how you can get out a window. Here's some options so that you're not a sitting duck. They all had friends at the Arapahoe campus when the shooting was going on. They said that all their friends, what they default did was hide in a corner and turn off the lights and hope for the best. I was like, guys, don't do that. There are much better options to learn to increase your survivability, and have a fighting chance so that you can get out of harm's way and be best protected. So I went through all of that, but we're going to go through all of those principles Friday at 1:30 p.m. So if you haven't gotten a chance to register for that webinar yet, it's on Texas ISD. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see that webinar there. And I hope that you attend. Even if you just attend the webinar, get the information, apply to your school, good enough for me. Our hope at TBG Solutions, that we're trying to figure out how do we get this out to as many schools as we can so that it's just part of the regular, just part of every drill that you do quarterly and part of just regular school, goings and happenings that you do active shooter drill along with tornado, fire drill, etc. Anyways, so thank you so much for taking the time out today to learn a little bit about how to protect your students from social media, sexting, cyberbullying, and also hopefully how to not get fired over Facebook. Think before you post is the cardinal rule. Think about the context that it could be received in, the different groups that are on your Facebook pages, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, etc. Definitely encourage open conversation with your students and with your kids back home. Use the ebook as a starting tool. There's an internet contract in the back of it, so you can talk to them and just kind of use it as a starting grounds to have good conversations and go from there. So let's see. I think I've got another question come in right here. Okay. We can definitely talk as well. Thank you, Kevin. And so, yeah, we hope to hear from you. I'll be in the office the rest of today, and we'll be able to, take your phone call if you'd like to chat for a little bit. I'll be more than happy to. Hope that you learned something. I hope that you're able to take it with you. Look for my email about an hour after the end of the webinar. It'll come from the same email address that you got the confirmation for the webinar on, and that's where you'll be able to download this PowerPoint. And also, if you could, we asked that if you could just take a quick 7-question survey. It will take about 2.5 minutes. You could take a quick survey, just give us a little feedback on what you learned today. And we appreciate that. We want to continue to make these better and continue to provide these for the schools in Texas. So thanks again, and I look forward to hearing from you. Give it back to Josh.
Hey, Matt, thanks. Thank you for all that good information, and then thank everyone for being here today and taking time out of your busy day. I know y'all have important things to do, so I just encourage all that as you go through the day, kind of keep this presentation in the back of your mind, discuss it with some people, see what the real feeling is about these issues, and I think you'll find that a lot of people uh, are concerned with it and have no idea of where to go to do anything real as far as training goes. And so this is a good opportunity, well worth the time to spend to research and do something about this problem proactively. Again, thank you, Matt. Thanks everyone for staying with us today, and look for information in their email. And that is all we have today. In 2 days from now, we have our active shooter training. I think it's on the 17th at 1:30. So that link is on texasisd.com if you're interested in a similar webinar with a different, similar delivery, totally different topic, but very interesting as well. Check that out, and we will see you all then. Thank you all very much.